Sakui Garavade, and welcome to Cassus Café, and I'm here with
Kleina.
Taika.
Captain.
And I'm Ankin, your host and facilitator, but doesn't do a whole lot of talking. And today we are reviewing episode 2 of Mandalorian Season 3. And last week was a doozy. This week, what are we thinking, guys?
It was fun.
Interesting. On my thought, I think overall it's pretty well shot. I'm just a bit confused at the pacing of the series so far, because we went right to Mandalore.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was surprised that we were going to Mandalore so quickly.
I literally had the phrase, wait, what? When I saw the title for the episode.
Oh, just to comment on your quick aspect of visuals, I do think it's just big thoughts, the best looking episode yet of Mandalorian. I'd be hard pressed to find a better looking one.
Yeah, I think we'll have some discussions on that, or at least some thoughts to share.
I'm excited to see that since we got to Mandalore so quickly, how much more do they have in store for us? Because if we're already on Mandalore, they must have even better stuff ahead. Because I thought Mandalore was going to be the finale.
Yeah.
They gotta have something bigger for the finale.
Yeah, it's surprising because when I watched it the first time and he gets off Tatooine, I'm like, well, where's he going? And then it shows the title. I'm like, we're not going to Mandalore already. And then we see Mandalore, and I'm like, wow, okay, let's go. and then it just keeps going. Like this episode's got such a weird. I felt so weird about the pacing because first viewing, I thought it was really fast. Like, oh my gosh, we're doing so much. There's no downtime really. But with subsequent viewings of it, I felt like I could gauge what's happening a little bit better, so it didn't feel as fast, but there's still a whole lot of ground that's covered in this one episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's I love the pacing of it. I think it's much, much better than the first episode. It's so much more focused. Even though a ton happens, it's just super focused in on it, though. We don't break away for anything else.
I do agree with that, because I felt like the first episode, it was like, okay, we have this main quest. Oh, here's a side quest. Oh, by the way. And it was just a lot going on, and it felt like different directions. And even if the pacing still is off in the sense of wait, we're at Mandalore already, at least it was in a straight line, so it wasn't jolting.
I completely agree.
I think that's a bit of an intentional fake out too. It's set up to seem like that's his quest, and it's just delaying your expectations, or not delaying, but diverting your expectations there.
Yeah, I had a note that I kind of understand now why they put the Bo-Katan scene as the last scene of the first episode, because he references that visit pretty early on in the episode, and that I feel that's probably because they wanted to have that visit a little bit more fresher than say it was where we kind of wanted it to be, was before the Navarro stuff. Even though I feel like it still makes more sense before Navarro, I understand why, in a thematic kind of juxtaposition standpoint of where they want the audience to be and remember from the last episode.
Yeah, I still stand by that it needs to be moved, and I don't appreciate the people who directed be like, hey, we need to put this at the end because our audience is stupid. Because you're just gonna do a rewind before the episode anyway. Why do you need
that's fair.
So it's do you think I'm that stupid and I can't remember that well? That's kind of insulting.
That's just that's just a theory I had, because he references it pretty early on when he's telling Mando Grogu how to navigate and where Bo-Katan was and stuff like that.
I understand that's your theory, and if that's the case, that's really insulting from Disney.
I do think that it would be better, just like every Star Wars series, or every series in general, if it was bingeable. If you just released them all at once, I think everything would just be better.
I think that's an interesting topic for discussion.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had originally planned to have the Bo-Katan scene earlier and then they just switched it later, because it even this episode started with them coming out of hyperspace, coming to Tatooine.
It started on Tatooine.
Well, yeah, but the first time we see Mando is him coming in from a ship.
Coming in.
So I wonder if they had switched the Bo-Katan scene later for the reason that Anakin said, because of like mentioning it and wanting us to remember, and like maybe that's why it feels so disconnected, because it was a decision made after it was already written and filmed.
It was a decision made on the editing table, not the intention of the. When
I mean, I don't know if
shot.
that's true, but I'm wondering if maybe that's the case.
And it would make more sense that, hey, I need this IG-11 part, which so far seems to be a complete red herring. You know, it would make more sense that he would go straight to Tatooine, because he did the same thing I was thinking. Well, I need a part that's hard to find. Let me talk to the Jawas on Tatooine, because you know that was literally my first thought, and that's where we start the episode. So, yeah, it seems kind of surprising he would go to Bo-Katan before going to Tatooine. So
yeah, I still agree with that. Like, our kind of running theory here, where we think the scenes kind of can be moved around and be a bit more streamlined.
Yeah, and if that was true, and if this is all we get of the IG-11 storyline, they could flesh it out and do more later. We don't know, but if that was the case and it is kind of over at this point, then that kind of makes my critiques of even the last one a little more apparent with that IG-11 story.
Yeah, because I feel like we wasted so much time on that in the last episode for it to be nothing, you know. Though my theory about why he needed him was
They
correct.
could go back to it later.
That. Well, I mean, why would he need him later, though?
That's what I was saying. Like, I could be wrong, and they could not be done. And if that's the case,
it feels like a gotcha of messing with our emotions, because I know Disney likes to mess with our emotions.
They just needed him to go to Navarro for some reason. We need that Carl Weathers
They
stream.
just want us to emotionally be attached to him before they rip him from our.
Well, everyone's fan of IG-11, so like they're like, hey, we're gonna tease bringing him back. Everyone gets invested, and then we do a gotcha, and we're like, nah. He ends up just taking an astromech. It's like, oh.
I do love the astromech part.
Oh,
though,
yeah.
In general, I do like that change of decision. Yeah, it's fun.
So the Tatooine scene, the whole Pelimoto thing where she's like scamming the Rodian with the child is so funny.
I was sitting here watching, going, I wonder if the Jawas ripped all those parts out, because she's like, I don't know how all those parts missing. I was like, bullcrap. You know how that happened.
There's a lot of parts missing, friend.
I saw this meme that was like, get you a partner who loves you as much as Jon Favreau loves revisiting Tatooine.
It is like a little one-stop shop for Mando there.
Yeah, it's funny how much, especially in like recent stuff, it's just become like the center of the universe, and it's like a meaningless planet, but it is. Is it not in any Star Wars show? I mean, just Andor, I guess. But
it almost makes you wonder if that's intentional.
Took place on there completely.
Yeah.
The Boba Fett show completely took place on.
Except for the Mando episodes, yeah.
Yeah.
Those weren't Boba Fett. Those are just Mando 2.5.
Yeah, but still, I as a fan who likes everything, like I still do like Tatooine, and it's still fun. But it is funny that we just always go back.
Yeah.
To it.
It's like Disney going, hey, nostalgia, this is a planet where Luke started, you know? It's like, I get it, but there's like, how many other planets in the galaxy? Can we start seeing some of those? And then it was like, well, can they make it so that when they do other planets, it's not like sand, like episode 7? Like, hey, another planet that's not Tatooine. We call it Jakku.
Yeah,
like, really?
let's just not.
What I love about sand is it's soft and it gets nowhere really.
Alright.
Let's see. Okay, so we've left Tatooine. I mean, Tatooine's pretty short scene.
Droid. Yeah, he gets the droid after being convinced.
I like the droid.
Yeah.
I like the whole gimmick where he's really frightened and you see him shake. I dig that stuff. I think it's super fun.
I think it's so cute and adorable how much Grogu cares for the droid. Like, he doesn't even speak, but you can tell how much he's just like worried about the droid, and his like, you know.
Like Mando's like, fine.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Like, it's very much not a good decision for him to pick that droid, but I don't really care. I think it's
the IG-11, like, when you know, not to speak and get too far ahead, but when you look at the episode and you're like, yeah, an IG-11 droid would have been way better.
Oh yeah,
he probably
could have handled himself.
It's kind of strange It's kind of strange how Mando goes from, I can only have IG-11. He's the only droid I trust, to this droid that's falling apart, doesn't think he can even do the job. Like,
Yes.
just complete
Yeah.
opposite of what he really
That's
wanted.
that's just how good of a swindler Pelimoto is. Okay.
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah,
To
yeah.
be honest,
you go.
I had an issue with that. I was like, wait, you're just telling me like this person was like, I'm gonna convince you to take an astromech. The person that does not trust droids, and it took how long to trust IG-11 was just like, fine, I'll take this one. Like, no, he doesn't trust droids for a reason.
I kind of think he's.
I
gotten
just came up with a new theory,
If he
guys.
had
It's gonna
gotten
blow your
over
mind.
that, he would have just settled for an astromech. He would have gone out and bought like another killer assassin droid, right? Why did he settle?
Does he have money for like a killer assassin droid? Is he like super rich?
He's a bounty hunter. He's got money.
Is he a bounty hunter?
Not anymore. He hasn't bounty hunted for a while.
I have a new theory, and it's gonna blow your minds. Pelimoto is force sensitive, and she force persuaded him to buy the droid because she once said, "May the force be with you." At the end, she's very friendly with Grogu, and it's the same R5 or R4 unit from A New Hope.
I'm down to believe it.
This R2 unit has a bad motivator. Uncle Owen.
So she said that, didn't she say it served with like the rebellion or something?
The rebellion, yeah, which is weird. Maybe that was a lie or something. I don't know, because in like the old Legends comic that wasn't ever really canon, that droid was force sensitive.
What?
Yeah.
A droid?
The
force
droid.
sensitive?
It was
Droid?
Skippy, the Jedi droid. That was his name. And I
Was this
read that
before
comic as a
or
kid.
After Disney?
It was way before his Legend.
Yes.
Yeah, I read it in
Ridiculous.
elementary.
Way before. Yeah, but anyways, fun opening, great.
So title drop, we all go what? And then we open up above Mandalore.
And yeah, it's the Mines of Mandalore.
And
yeah.
oh my gosh, is it not beautiful?
It looks pretty rough.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but
That for me is like where the visuals are just like the best. Is that whole landing sequence, finding it sequence, like the way that the rain
Oh,
is
yeah.
like,
Oh, yes.
battering off of his ship, like it looks. That entire sequence looks almost photorealistic to me. Like it's completely believable.
now Den does have a little conversation with Grogu here where he talks about where he was raised, and which was kind of surprising to me because I guess it might be where he was raised after he was saved by the Mandalorians. I'm not sure if it's exactly where he was born or anything.
No, it was after he's saved because
Yeah, because
he got rescued by the Mandalorians from the Separatists. He lost his
yeah,
family.
from like Clone Wars sometime when he's really little. So he's raised on Concordia, which is a moon of Mandalore, and we see that in the Clone Wars show. That's where the Death Watch were exiled to from Mandalore because that's a lot of Clone Wars lore I don't want to talk about. But y'all chat for a little bit. I gotta Google something.
I thought the Mando teaching Grogu about like, oh, to be a Mandalorian, you have to be able to navigate, and having that scene again. We had that in the first episode as well, but having this one too. I thought it was so cute. And then how they tied it in later in the episode was really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe a bit suspicious, convenient that in the same episode you provide something that it also is a solution later. But I will give him props to actually doing that. This is something the sequel trilogy has horrible issues with, is improper setups. So I at least give him props for like, hey, we're gonna need Grogu to fly later. To be honest, I'm pretty sure that was the droid that was flying, but he still needed to tell the ship where to go. But I still like the continuation. He's trying to teach Grogu because of the fact they are indeed, I don't know what the proper term, clan, whatever you want to call it.
No, it's clan.
I'm not sure
Cult?
family is really the
Clan.
correct term,
Cult.
Well,
but I did enjoy that scene.
I feel like Grogu's skill in general, just progression seems pretty natural so far across the entire show. And so for him at this point to be able to correctly kind of give coordinates or do something basic feels good enough.
Yeah,
I think.
he's young, but he is still 50 years old. So
What point does this species start to be able to actually form words?
What, like 100 years old? I don't know. There's no really a base. There's no base of info for this, is there?
How old is Yoda?
So this is what everyone's been kind of talking about is online is that Yoda, when he died, was 900 years old, and he said he was teaching Jedi for 800 years.
So right now he's the equivalent of 5 years old, basically. 5-year-olds can speak.
Well, that's what people are kind of theorizing. Maybe this species will have like a growth spurt at some point that shoots them up, and then they just like are that age for a while.
And then they lose all their money.
I just want to make sure Concordia was actually in Legends. I was kind of making sure if it wasn't like a Disney or a Clone Wars canon thing, but it was in Legend stuff before Clone Wars. So yeah. Anyway,
Was there another one? Sorry to interrupt.
That was kosher. No, go ahead.
Wasn't there like another one called like Concord Dawn or something?
Yes. So that's what I was wondering, if Concordia was supposed to be like a Disney or Clone Wars version of Concord Dawn. Is not. Concord Dawn is a different planet in the Mandalore system.
Okay.
And that's where Jango Fett was raised.
Okay, because that's the one that's like cracked, isn't it? Like it's not.
No, I think that's Concordia.
Concordia looked pretty fine in the show.
Well, because don't they go to? Maybe they
That's
go
where
to
they go.
Concord
I
Dawn and
wanna
Rebels.
say it
I
was
forget. Did they go to Concord Dawn and Rebels?
I want to say yes, because that particular one, they were on a planet, or at least near a planet, that was like
Okay.
partial, like it was like cracked in half or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mandalorian's not the whole Mandalorian systems are not my strong suit. But
Dude, it's been a few years since I've really been deep in my Mandalorian planets, but yeah. So Concordia is a moon of Mandalore. Then there's Concord Dawn. There's like a few other planets in the whole Mandalorian space, but I think the one that Bo-Katan lives on is new. I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
What's the name of that planet? Do you have that one up or?
Okay. I do not.
Yeah, because I want to say he referenced Concordia along with Mandalore, and then he mentioned like a third planet, because I think he said like, yeah, and that's the one Bo-Katan's on, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what he say?
I think so.
Yeah, that's the one that Bo-Katan lives on, because she's in the same system.
That's the one we just met.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get to see much of it.
I did want to say that once he does fly into the planet, I always like little bits of lore detail. Like he was like, oh, I think they were like fusion bombs that they dropped, which kind of sounds like almost like a nuclear weapon from the Star Wars universe. And he was like, yeah, it totally messed up the magnetic field, and transmissions can't come in and out of the system. I'm like, yeah, that sounds actually pretty reasonable. In the real world, we talk about the potential effects of nuclear fallout. What would be the case if, we dropped a bunch of nuclear bombs? So it makes sense that there would be a Star Wars equivalent of whatever bombings they did on the planet. So I did enjoy that little tidbit, along with the fact that you see what looks like the surface being completely crystallized or glassed, which is something, and this is what makes me think of nuclear weapons, because I think they talk about how when they did the nuclear weapons testing in the United States, that the area around the bomb was turned into glass because they dropped it on a desert. So yeah, it just kind of gives me that vibes, and I think that really fits like the apocalyptic theme that they're kind of going with here. And
yeah, and to my knowledge, I don't think that we've seen something like visually like that planet before in live action. To see something so broken and so desolate, Star Wars just doesn't really do that in live action very much. There's wars in Revenge of the Sith, but it's happening. It's not the aftermath of it.
Well, I mean, you could argue in the sequels with like the downed Star Destroyers and the Death Star wreckage.
A little.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different because you're talking about spaceships that are crashed on a planet, which I think is pretty neat. Because it also helps with a sense of scale on like how big some of these things were. But in regards to this is different because we're talking about the effects of like, I think the closest we've seen in Star Wars was that, I believe in Rebels, they talked about how the Empire like almost exterminated all the Geonosians. So like, but that planet was not really that nice to look with in the beginning, and it looked the same. It's just that there was like no one living on it. So this was like complete devastation. Like they carpet bombed with the Star Wars equivalent of nukes. So
All right, so they land on the planet, and he tells the droid to yeet.
I like that. He's like, "No, I don't want to get out," and he's like, "That wasn't that wasn't a request, think."
But there's another logistic issue that we pointed out last episode with Grogu, and now we're having it with the droid, where it shows him sliding out from the bottom of the ship, but when you get a wide angle, there's an engine underneath his little hut. So how does he get out? How did he get in?
Things move.
It's
space magic.
This movie magic.
and you know, from the engineering perspective, it is annoying that they clearly didn't think that through.
Yeah.
You know, it gives me appreciation for people that take the time to model things, right? Like the fact that you can go and get a cutout of what the Millennium Falcon looks like, that shows credit for like they thought out the ship.
Yeah.
This clearly was not taking the same care for this ship, and it shows.
At least when it comes to how droids and Grogu get into that area, because that's the only problem with the ship.
I like how when he eventually has to get out, he's like, "Go in your pod." I'm like,
exactly.
Is that
maybe it's in the
floorboard? I mean, because it's like it's almost like driving a car and having like a shoebox or something, you know, near your feet. That's
He's
that's not a smart idea.
The Star Wars equivalent of a Lotus Elise with 2 passengers, and a Lotus is a 2-seater car, very tiny, can't fit anything in it. And he's carrying it on a droid, Grogu on his lap, and apparently his little hover chair somewhere.
Yeah, where's that hover chair?
Yeah.
They got a back storage compartment back?
That's what I was just arguing. That
does he smuggle stuff? Like maybe there's a smuggler's compartment in that
because he told him to go in your pod. I'm like, wait, what?
There's so many things wrong with the logistics of this ship. It looks great. It's awesome. I love the N1, but gosh dang.
I see why he wants a bigger ship, right? It would make things so much easier. Because he could have just kept Grogu in the cockpit of the Razor Crest, and then he could just dropped out the side door, right? No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So the droid goes out. The droid goes out on his own, and they lose him. And I thought this is like, as much as I love the droid bits, it's great. It is kind of funny how we've spent like a significant amount of time searching for a droid, trying to fix a droid, and then ultimately he just kind of goes out.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
wondering, like, okay,
yeah,
like he doesn't. But maybe he didn't have the equipment, or the droid would be the only one to be able to take the readings he needed, or whatever. Because maybe
that was the story plot. Yeah,
but maybe like his, sealing his helmet is only good for so long, and he doesn't have the ability to take the readings himself. So
I'm also wondering, why did he like send the droid out and like make him like go like into that area, like when he ended up just coming back and taking the reading right next to the ship? Could he have just done that in the first place?
I think what they wanted you to think is that he took an air sample inside the cave and then brought it back, and then he analyzed it.
It did not appear that way.
Yeah, and my thing is like, all right, what, you really think the air is going to be that significantly different over there to over here? I mean, it's windy. It's going to all be toxic, or it's not.
Yeah.
You could have just kept him in the ship and not had to terrify the poor thing, and just said, "Hey, take an air sample, okay? Can I walk out or not?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does give him a cool little opportunity to go save him.
Yeah, it just annoys me when they sacrifice logic for emotional plot.
And when he actually saves him from the thing, I liked watching him use the Darksaber and be still pretty inefficient with it.
Yeah.
Because that comes into play more later in the episode, the payoff for that. But I really enjoyed how not terrific he was. I mean, he's fine, better than he was in the past.
It weighs nothing until I activate it. Then it weighs a freaking butt ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the fight scenes overall in this episode. The fight scenes in this show in general are pretty good, but definitely in this episode they feel like they're a notch above the rest. And I honestly just don't know how they can make some of these elements better as the season goes, because this cinematography in this episode is phenomenal. The fight scenes are really good and kind of close, and Tykoth said heavy, have some impact to it.
Yeah,
and it also advances story. If you're really watching, it advances the plot and character development of certain characters in the fight scenes.
Yeah, my real issues have been just with like plot decisions and stuff, because whatever they decide to do, I may not agree with, like, well, why are you doing that? That doesn't kind of make sense. But what they are executing, they're executing well on. And I want to make that really clear that, I'm not harping on the visual effects or the stunt, because the people who actually do those things, they're doing a fantastic job. I have a bit of an issue with the droid being completely fine because he disappeared off the scanner. And it's like, oh, no, he's fine. Just wipe the dirt off of him. And I'm just like, you couldn't have least busted him with some panels open to make a reason why he dropped off the scanner. It's like, come on, But, like, again, everything else, it's very competently shot. So, again, it's more of like, oh, we didn't want to hurt the poor droid, but we need to give an excuse for Mando to get out of his ship, So,
yeah,
that's kind of where my gripes have been with the show so far.
I think an alternate version of the scene, maybe it could be, like we said, the droid takes the sample right there, and he's like, all right, cool, it's not cursed, and he gets out, maybe looks around and takes Grogu with him. I was kind of hoping maybe he'd take his helmet off, take a breath of fresh air, but really that's not why he's there. So I understand why he didn't. But it's just for me, it kind of be neat thematically. Your character arc would be if he like removed his helmet just to like breathe in the air of Mandalore,
I mean, you're not redeemed yet. I mean, what's going to kill you taking your helmet off?
Exactly. Like, yeah, like you can do whatever you want until you get down to the waters. But
yeah,
I just thought it would be kind of neat, just like as a neat shot thematically, if he got out and just kind of took his helmet off, breathed in the fresh air of Mandalore that he thought, would have been poisoned. Everyone thinks it's poison. It's not. And he's like the first Mandalorian to do so in years, kind of thing. I think that would have been cool.
I like that too, because it's almost like going against their religion a little bit too.
Right, yeah.
I like that.
But he's still he still wants to, he's still dead set on his goal to get down there. But I just think that would have been a neat little alternative way of doing that. And he could still have the fight scene because he goes into the cave to, to find stuff anyway. He doesn't have to go in there to search for the droid. He can just go in there, find the waters, and once he gets in there, boom, fight scene. It's another just kind of alternate way of thinking about it, I guess. It works. It's fine for what it is, but
just kind of imagine like where the premiere is this, and it's not even the droid. He just lands on Mandalore. That's the opening of the first scene.
I would be like, the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we miss an episode here?
That was.
Yeah.
Because there's you would avoid all the droid stuff that he's like kind of unneeded, and then he just tries it just because he's that desperate. And then he goes there, and it's just like opening, boom, done.
Yeah, you could have some dialogue with Grogu, like Grogu showing concerns. He's like, I have to do it, even if it's not ideal or something like that. You could have made it, work that way if you wanted to.
Time jumps can be kind of cool. I mean, like even Empire Strikes Back is.
Yeah, I think maybe the first episode we could have cut out the Navarro stuff completely, and maybe expounded more upon him visiting Bo and trying to get her to help him go to Mandalore or whatever. And maybe after that, he kind of gets dissuaded by her, so he maybe goes to find something that can help him make sure the planet's safe or not. But that wouldn't be the primary goal of the episode. It'd be like a side thing towards the end. And then this episode would start with him with that droid or whatever to come to the planet.
But if you were to make that scene with him just talking to Bo much longer, like people are going to get bored with two people just talking, just one standing, one sitting, doing no action on the screen.
Well, yeah, but
if you make that go for much longer.
Well, yeah, but I'm not for Tygoth, yeah.
Not me. I've watched 2-hour movies where it's just people talking.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the subject matter stuff. I really enjoy it too, but for Star Wars, like they could be doing something more than just sitting around talking, but there could be definitely more lore that could be expounded upon, more arguments between characters, more like character-driven discussions and disagreements and whatever between the two factions that they're part of, and I think it'd be a lot more interesting building up of the lore of the Mandal lore. Anyway, so yeah, it was good though. I think it was neat, kind of thinking about an alternate way of how I would reimagine the scene or something.
Yeah, yeah. We went off on a big tangent there.
Because honestly, this whole bit with the droid, it just kind of expounds upon the stuff with the droid in the last episode that we didn't really like, so I felt like it was the weakest part of the episode. But after that, like before and after the droid stuff,
especially when he just in the end he just like take an air sample. Okay, great.
Like before and after that, it's
like,
just
really?
It's really good, and after it, obviously it picks up really good, really well. And once we don't have the droid anymore, or really need the droid, it's great. But the droid does play a good part, because when, I mean, a little skipping a bit, but when Grogu goes back and has to fly the ship, obviously he can't fly the ship.
Yeah. I really want to get into, like, once he enters, like, I want to get into, like,
so the next part would be him, like, he sees the city for the first time. Well, not the second time, technically. The first time with Grogu, right? I think it's really great to finally see some of the things from the animated shows into live action. And
he gets his jetpack used.
Yeah. Oh, did we want to talk about the fight scene?
He already had his fight scene.
Yeah, I know, but we didn't talk about the creatures.
We kind of did. You know, he took out the lightsaber and he was.
Yeah.
He weighed a lot.
I was saying I liked how he wasn't good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that now.
I really don't. Like I said, I really don't have much to say about it. He fought the guys, and it kind of went as you would think.
I was thinking Tykoth was talking about the creatures he was fighting here. He wanted to talk about.
Oh no, I wanted to talk about the creature.
Okay.
He wants to be a bit further along. So.
Okay.
Well, I mean, all that really happens is that, I mean, it's wonderfully paced, it's gorgeous, and it's all necessary to like build up to that tension. But really, the next thing in the sequence that happens is he finds that creature, and I really want to know what your guys' first thought was on that.
Yeah. So he's going down.
Into the
tunnels.
Yep.
Through the ruins. And you were talking about how it's really good, or it's really cool to see something from cartoons put into live action. And I actually felt the same way, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Clone Wars show. I thought it was really neat just how much a cartoon character in Bo-Katan has a lot of screen time as a live action. It's kind of surreal, kind of seeing a character you were introduced to and know as a cartoon character come into live action, and it's a really good rendition of her in live action, and she's awesome.
That's because it's the same actor.
Yeah, it's the same voice actor, and she does really well.
The voice actor gets to play as her own self, which I think is fantastic. Like, I wish companies would do that more. And I don't want to go on a tangent on that, but
they could have done it with Ahsoka, but they chose not to.
She's a pretty funny looking Ahsoka though. Not Rosario Dawson, but I mean Ashley.
What's her name?
Ashley wishes she could have.
She's a great voice actress, awesome. But yeah, it would be kind of funny on screen.
Yeah, I definitely understand sometimes when the actors are mainly voice actors, they haven't done much like live TV acting or stuff, that they'll cast somebody else as the character in live action. But
and there's just the aspect of the look.
Yeah, but there's sometimes when it comes to like Jason Isaacs, for example, like we mentioned in the last episode, he did the voice acting for the Grand Inquisitor in Rebels, yet he wasn't cast as the Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan, and everyone was like, why not? Where's Jason Isaacs? He's in everything. He's Lucius Malfoy, for Pete's sake. Why can't he be this awesome Grand Inquisitor? which I think would have been way better, honestly.
And that's something where it's a very non-human character, so like the look kind of doesn't matter anyway. So you could just make him.
You cover the person with makeup anyway, right?
Yeah, like that Grand Inquisitor. I don't remember who plays the Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan, but he he doesn't look anything like that.
Maybe
So-
he was too expensive.
I would have remembered who plays him if it was Jason Isaacs.
and I don't mind that.
But I think a decent combination was the person that played Darth Maul
Yeah, no,
in Episode 1. Didn't have a whole lot of speaking lines. Wasn't all that fantastic. Not terrible or anything, just meh. But then you get the voice actor for Darth Maul from the Clone Wars show,
Sam Witwer.
which, yes, I have a huge admiration for because he played my favorite character in The Force Unleashed. So,
Oh, I love Sam. Sam
Yeah.
Witwer's great. Seems
Yeah.
like an amazing guy.
yeah, he's a great guy. But anyway, he then got to voice him for Maul in the end of, I want to say, Solo. So they had the dude that played him physically with the voice of the animated guy. Granted, they had to use like a hologram for that to work. But I was like, that's cool. I like that.
That's great. So yeah, he okay. So Mandalorian.
Right.
I
I didn't start this tangent.
No, I know. He gets to the creature though, and I just want to know because I had a very it didn't last for very long, but I had a thought about this creature. I want to know if you guys had the same thought. What was your first thought when he gets to the eye creature?
I have my thoughts.
he's traveling down through these tunnels, and he picks up this Mandalorian helmet. And the Mandalorian helmet, actually, when he picks it up from the side, it kind of looks like a busted-up Death Watch helmet because of how thick the side things are. And it kind of reminded me of those Death Watch helmets from the Clone Wars show. But anyway, after he picks it up, boom, trapped by this giant robot creature that sounded like it came straight from Dune.
Giant metal crab.
It was really, really freaking cool, honestly. And I only had this thought afterwards that maybe they were trying to make people think it was this, but I never thought it was that until later. And I don't think it is, but I never had that thought that it could be later. It's kind of confusing, but I'm guessing you're thinking if we thought it was a Basilisk war droid or not.
No, okay.
No?
I only had this for like a couple shots, but I know it's crazy, but like I had the thought are they trying to do General Grievous? like
No,
coming
see,
up.
people. I never thought that either. People, I've watched some.
It was only for a minute, but I
some-
still thought wait, is this Grievous? Are they trying to bring him back?
I know that Star Wars Theory compared him to Grievous, but no, I don't think anyone actually thought he was like a Grievous or anything like that.
I thought it was like a droid that was like programmed to capture beings that came so that he could bring it back to his master. And then once he was like hooking him up to the skewer looking thing, I thought he was going to cook him over and open fire and feed it to his master.
I also thought his little magnified eye. I thought his eye looked very Grievous-esque.
Yeah.
Like it is the same shape.
I had to ask Ankin while we were watching if it was alive or not until I saw the second time I saw the eye thing. I was like, oh, okay, there's something alive in there. Because I didn't really, I thought it looks like a droid until you see that eye and you actually get it. It's so much robot, not much living being.
Yeah.
It's pretty horror-esque for Star Wars, I think. Yeah, very frightening.
The character design of it is incredible, really.
I just remember sitting here watching, him looking at that helmet like something's gonna happen. Just get it over with. It's so telegraphed. Like something.
What do you think he was doing with Mando? Like he had those tubes hooked up to him, and was he injecting him with something, or was he taking stuff out?
So this is what I think. I think probably where the comparisons to General Grievous come from are General Grievous used to be a complete person, whatever species he was.
Kalish
Right, until he suffered a really bad accident.
at the hands of Dooku.
Right, though Grievous never knew that.
Right.
It was clearly to try to get him angry at the Jedi and blame the Jedi, because that's what he basically got set up.
Yeah.
And the point is that there's very little of Grievous that is tissue left. It's mostly droid, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I thought of when I saw that, especially when he came out of the bigger machine, was like, oh, this is a Grievous-like character in the sense that he's got so much robotic stuff now. He's got barely any biomass left. And when he hooked up that hose to him, like, oh yeah, he's harvesting the biomass because when you get to that level, you can't produce that stuff naturally anymore. So you got to harvest it off of other people. So that's what I got the impression of, is that like maybe like whatever blood he had in his own system was like, yep, this is all bad now. I need fresh blood because I don't have the capability to make it anymore.
That's possible, yeah.
I think I'm with you there. Yeah, I think it just makes sense that he's just gathered, because he's very, very little organic, and so he's just taking a little bit of organic materials that he needs.
Yeah, because he clearly doesn't have a care for the Beskar.
Yeah.
Because he just tosses it all over the
Exactly.
place.
That's why I was curious, like, what is this thing? Why is it on Mandalore? Where did it come from? What's it doing?
I wonder if it's some type of mutation that happened during, like, because it was all bombed. Like, maybe it's some animal that somehow adapted through that.
This is like an evolution of radiation.
I don't know how.
Well, but somehow the troll-like characters, whatever they are, survived as well. They had to adapt somehow to survive on this planet with all this.
I don't know how you attempt to mutate yourself to almost nothing then, because that requires some pretty advanced surgery. I mean, just look at Boba Fett and how I forgot her name.
Fennec Shan.
Yes, thank you. Barely survived, right? And had to get some organics swapped out for, droid stuff. So it's like, okay, well, that was an intense operation. I can't imagine some dude go, well, it's been bombed to hell. Let me take a knife and go, and then, all right.
Well, stuff stops functioning. Like his lung stops functioning, and then he goes, well, I'm gonna have to replace that synthetically.
Think of how far beings and creatures and people even will go in, not necessarily just Star Wars, but in science fiction in general, how far people will go to survive. Like, I think back of, have you guys ever seen Doctor Who? Like, there's an episode with Matt Smith where he goes on this pocket universe planet type thing, and there's 3 people there, and they just survive by capturing Time Lords and other people and taking their body parts and putting it on themselves. And they're like barely even themselves anymore. They're mostly these other people that they've taken their body parts of. And that's seen in other science fiction shows in general. Like, people go to whatever lengths they can to survive.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, but here's the thing: there is not a doctor in the world that operates on themselves. That's my point.
It's happened in movies. I mean, that one was pretty good. Somehow he was able to create all those machines too, or something.
I did not see a droid that was capable of operating on there. So maybe he created a droid to operate him, and he, knocked himself out. I don't know, but maybe he's just a creature of opportunity.
It's definitely an enigma that we'll probably never get answers to, because he's dead now.
But I kind of like it though, because he's so. It was just it was a creature unlike anything we'd seen in Star Wars, and we've seen a lot. So to make something new is pretty cool.
Yeah, my initial thought when he popped out of the sand is like, he's harvesting Mandalorians that are foolish to come back, and I was like, wait a minute. If you really wanted the Beskar, why don't you take the dozens of corpses that are laying around? Like how many places where it was obvious that somebody died and the only thing left is the Beskar? So like there's salvage everywhere. You didn't have to literally lay in the sand for God knows how long to try to get one. So
that's right, because I was thinking like what's he doing there? I was thinking maybe he's just some scavenger, but he's not scavenging anything. He's not getting what's valuable there. He's just trying to suck blood.
All of the biomass from the dead body already, and he's running out.
I think after that, I'm more on the some sort of whatever radiation type of thing. I'm more on the mutation side, I think, of this argument.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
You don't mutate into robotics, though. That's.
Well, yeah, because his other organs failed, so he had to go through.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying that as they failed, he just was like one piece at a time, get
Yeah.
replaced, and next thing
Yeah,
you
it's-
know, he's almost nothing but a
Yeah,
robot.
it's not like his heart, lungs, back, everything went out at once. It's like, oh, his kidney's out, so he replaces that. Now his other kidney, if that species has 2 kidneys, whatever.
If they even have a kidney.
they might not have a kidney. They might
Maybe
have.
they have 5.
They have an appendix, except their appendix is useful. Like, who knows?
All I know is that I originally thought it was a Beskar salvaging like trap droid.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And then I was like, oh, clearly it's not. Especially after when you go to his lair and there's just Beskar, armor all over the place. I'm like, well, he clearly doesn't care for it.
Just dumped helmets of fallen peeps he's probably harvested. It's interesting.
So Grogu follows him down there, tries to rescue him.
Fails miserably.
Yeah, tells him to go get Bo-Katan.
And then we get to I found a TikTok of this scene where he's running away to the Mario Kart track, and it is great.
My first thought was, now this is pod racing.
Yeah, because this isn't a pod.
Yeah, and he's racing out of there.
Pod racing.
So he flies into Bo-Katan, and once again she's sitting on her throne looking all sad, and I'm wondering what does she do all day? Like in her house, her little castle thing looks like just one giant throne room. So what is going on? What does she does she just sit there all day crying herself to sleep or something? Like
she's playing the new Mario Kart tracks.
It definitely would have been like better if she was doing something else and the droid was like, you have an unscheduled visitor, and she's like, oh, it has to go back to the throne and sit on there.
Yeah, like maybe she's like in her workshop or something, or
she's like
tweaking her weapons, cleaning her gear or something that
practice.
Mandalorians would do. But she's just sitting there all sad.
My question was, because there's like this blanket next to her. I'm like, does she sleep on that? Like, why is there a blanket there now? There wasn't in the last episode.
That would be very...
Yeah, there is a blanket to her left with her helmet sitting on it.
She cries into it whenever she thinks about everything.
That's interesting.
But I kind of like, I don't know, you might think it's too fast, but I do kind of like how when they arrive and she finds out about Mando being gone, I like how quickly she just decides to go. I think that like it's a cool character because you realize her toughness is a bit of a facade in terms of like emotionally. And so I like that it kind of disrupts that a little bit. And she's like, okay, so she is a little bit of a softie. She does care about him.
I got a completely different impression, but okay.
Well, I mean, even in Clone Wars, she was kind of like a conflicted character because she's good on the inside, but she's with these bad people and doing bad things with them until she kind of, breaks away from that. Even though she's still one of the traditional, like, tough and shoot 'em up Mandalorians, she's still got that more, she's got that good heart in her. And so she's probably it's the same kind of idea here where she's really not liking or doesn't care for Din's what's
like
the word?
Attitude or purpose.
Yeah. His zealotism or whatever the word is.
She doesn't care for his belief, but she cares for him as a person.
It's like, oh, you still blind to that stupid crap?
She doesn't care for his beliefs, but she does care about him as a person, very evidently.
No, I got a bit of a different impression. I thought she was like, oh, he needs my help. And it almost sounded like, I'm not sure if it's just because of the facial expressions she made. I was getting a completely different vibe of like she was going to do something nefarious. Like maybe she was thinking like, well, I can take the Darksaber from him. I can just kill him and then take the Darksaber. Then I'll have it back. That's where I thought
I
that
know
was going.
some people that think that too, but I honestly, there's different people think different things about this, but I honestly didn't get that. I feel like when she's looking at Grogu and telling the droid to see where they last went, she kind of looks back at Grogu like she's actually worried about what's happened. She's got this face of kind of concern and a little bit of fear.
Really?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's when she looks looks back at,
No, I see real concern when I remember seeing it.
and when she's flying down to Mandalore, she's kind of got this kind of smile, like almost not sinister but expectant.
Yeah, that's what I saw. It was sinister. Like she was up to something.
I was not seeing sinister. I was saying this is the first time she's flown to this planet in years, and it's probably just that kind of excitement, nostalgic kind of anticipation, kind of small smile, kind of facial expression of what she's about to see, and then she breaks through, and it's just like a wave of emotions, you know.
Oh, you
because-
think? So you think the droid told her that the air was breathable, and she was like, "Wait, what?"
Probably. I mean, she knew going in that it was breathable because probably either one, the droid told her, you know, probably
Or you just assume because Din obviously
because
got
Din's in
out
there.
of the spaceship and he's not stupid enough to go out without checking. At least she
Yeah.
probably knows that he's not
Right.
stupid.
And Grogu wouldn't like lead her
Yeah.
there just to die in the air anyway.
I know, but
Yeah.
like again, this goes back to that, you know, pacing. Like they were just like, "All right, let's go." Could you not have taken a minute to have like get the droid to like say what was going on, and then have her say something?
The droid can't talk. You just have to infer what the droid is saying because we don't speak droid.
Yeah, but you could have a translate. There are creative ways. Like we couldn't understand Chewie in the original trilogy. And we never had a direct, like, this is what Chewie is saying. It would be like, he would say something and then someone would respond, and you kind of got the sense of what he was already saying from the response.
I feel like it'd feel like if you did that though with Bo Katan, it would feel like just a repeat of the scene that already happened with Din.
I think, yeah.
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen her face when she first learns that Mandalore has breathable air. And you can go visit.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really see that, but I think what we get from her before and after shows real concern for Din. And when she's flying in, I posted a couple pictures for you guys to look at. But the first one, it's when she's flying in and she's just seeing the city of Sindari for the first time, probably in years, and she's just like, "Dang it." You know, kind of it's hitting her.
That feels really reflective.
Yeah, at that point, I was like, okay, she clearly was not anticipating what she found.
Yeah.
Which is why I was originally like, all right, she had something nefarious going on.
And that other screenshot is
that's
from,
when she's looking back at
seeing
Grogu after she.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks pretty concerned to me.
Yeah. That's why I was like confused, because those shots, I was like, yeah, that looks concerning. And then other shots, I'm looking at the one now where she's just like, the way she's like looking out the cockpit as she's going through the storm clouds, I'm like, are you up to something? Because you look like you have something, you know, like you got like a plan or something. So yeah, I think it would have been nice.
Oh, you know what we skipped over that was a really like great little part real quick is just when Grogu is racing out and it's the strongest show of force we've seen.
Yeah, when he blasts the creature
He's just
back.
like, force push.
Yeah.
And then he looks at his
I know.
hand and he's like, "Oh, can I do that?"
I know it's in the trailer, but in the full scene, it's great how he. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, he
long.
like stops for a second and then he's like,
My
"You know what, frick
dad's in
this."
trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels warranted because it's been long enough since we've seen him. They don't like make him a scapegoat all the time for things, and so when there is like occasional times, it's nice to see him like grow in power slowly.
Well, I mean, let's be real here. This was petty in comparison to him like taming a rancor.
Somewhat. I mean, he launched that thing, man.
Yeah, he did.
It's also nice seeing Grogu not just being a cute little thing to sell merchandise, but he's actually like useful in the plot.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna get more of that this season too.
Yeah.
Prediction. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Back to her being her coming to the planet. Bo-Katan.
Yeah, so when she does actually get through the clouds, you know, we get to see an overhead view of the city that's demolished, which is, again, amazing cinematography
Just
here.
Beautiful shot. And I don't even like the depiction of Mandalorian this stuff, but it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. The texture on the ground, the shininess, it's just awesome. And the projection that they use on the LED or the studio here is just top notch. Gives really good depth.
Very, very good.
I think they're doing a lot better job each season on utilizing the best parts of the volume that they're actually when they shoot on set and stuff in there, and it's starting to feel a little bit bigger. I mean, the volume is kind of hard to make things in the set seem big.
I wonder if they made a bigger one and then did Unreal Engine 5, because previously they did Unreal 4. And Unreal 5's been out for some time, and Unreal 5 does have a graphical upgrade. You're not running a video game here, so you could easily do pre-rendered scenes.
That's interesting. I wonder if we'll get like a behind the scenes of the season afterwards, like we did the first two.
Yeah, and I think Jon Favreau is very much of like wanting to use technology and be like, we're not just gonna do what everyone else does. I'm gonna figure out the best way to shoot something. I mean, look at the volume. I don't think anyone's ever done anything like that. So he's willing to do new creative things if he thinks it can help create the shots. So like the shot of her.
And that's great, because that's how Star Wars started too. Like, didn't George Lucas like create a whole animation studio just to?
Yes.
He created a whole special effects studio.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and
both trilogies created a whole new industry.
And and he pushed the envelope of the special effects. Now, as the special effects grow in capability, it obviously can allow you to tell better stories. And that's the key here: better stories, not just special effects. Go, throw a bunch of stuff and people will like it. Some people do.
Yeah.
I don't. But I want to say this shot of her walking off the ship looks gorgeous.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Her ship is also very cool.
I now want to get one.
Yeah, that design of Mandalorian fighters is growing on me, even though it's a Clone Wars thing. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat, I'm not gonna lie. So it's actually funny because when they get in the cave and she looks at the city for the first time, she has the moment that I wish that I kind of talked about didn't have.
I like it a lot.
So like she takes her helmet off for no apparent reason and just gives this little speech to Grogu and then puts it right back on and goes down.
She does what you wish didn't.
I don't know about that, honestly, because I'm just like, okay, she's lived here before.
It does make more sense for her to have it.
What is the
it's just different.
Her moment would have been different. That's
it's different, I guess. Because,
he doesn't have an emotional attachment to it. She does.
That's true.
But you got to understand, like, Mandalore is everything for Jin because of everything that it represents in his identity. I agree with Anakin here about how I would have liked to see him done the same thing, take his helmet off and be like, this is the origin of my people, right?
Yeah.
And, pay respects. Yeah.
They're kind of they fight a little bit in this episode, the thing of just doing the whole journey over again. And it would be a little funny to have like several things repeated like that.
That's fair. I think, I don't know. It fits for her as well, I guess, but I just found it kind of weird that she seemingly takes her helmet off just to tell Grogu a speech. I wish we had a little bit more time of her just kind of gazing out, possibly, before she gives her little speech.
Well,
because right now the way it's done, she takes her helmet off, gives the speech, puts it back on. There's no like breathing in between it.
I don't think you're realizing also the importance of what's going on, because the two things. Imagine if you had to abandon your home because of, let's say, invasion, right? And you get to come back 20 years later and you have to walk around with a protective suit due to the environment, and you finally get back to your home and it's in ruin, right? I don't know about you, but I'd get a bit emotional, and I would probably do the same because your helmet will probably limit your visibility, right? To me, this feels very natural. Like, I think, because what I feel like is happening is that she's taking in the moment, and then Grogu reminds her of the importance of time, Mando's in trouble. We need to go help him. And that's when she goes, right, and puts her helmet back on and focuses on the task at hand.
And one of the reasons we might not have seen Din have a moment like this is because he has a one-track mind. He's like, I just got to get to the waters and redeem myself so that I can go back with my clan. Like, he's not thinking about, oh, this is a fantastic place. Oh, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I want to get to the mines.
Yeah.
He cares less about Mandalore than his cult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see where you're going, Captain, but I think I have a similar. I kind of agree, but I still feel like it would, for me, it feel a bit more natural if she didn't just take the helmet off, say her speech, put it back on, instead like take her helmet off.
You would have preferred just kept the helmet on?
Well, no, she can take the helmet off, but maybe have a few beats where she's just looking out over it before she starts talking, maybe a couple more different landscape shots of it, and then she does her little speech, so it's a bit more of a rumination. So like, for example, how my favorite scene in all of Star Wars has no dialogue. It is the scene in Revenge of the Sith where it's just Padme and Anakin in their respective rooms looking out over the cityscape of Coruscant, and Anakin's ruminating about what he's about to do, like if he's gonna go save Palpatine or not. It's the most powerful, epic scene in all of Star Wars. It's the tipping point of the entire saga because that's where the decision is made by Anakin, and it's incredibly done, incredibly shot. So something like that, obviously not the same emotional level, but something like that in here where she's just ruminating over the defeated landscape, I think would have been way better than her just be like, okay, I take my helmet off and blah about my planet, put it back on and get to business,
Yeah, I would agree with that somewhat.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you for a longer form of it.
Yeah, it would have been neater if
I like it happening no matter what. And if
Like,
I
I'd be
could
down
choose,
for every
I'd want
episode
everything
being
to
an
be
hour
longer.
long.
So I'm all down for that.
Yeah, I think that would help the pacing issues. But that goes back to what you're saying. Like, yeah, I'm agree. Part of the reason why I like the prequels and the originals is not everything has to be about special effects on screen. Sometimes nothing is going on, or something is going on, but no one's talking, right? That's the power and beauty of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think it would have definitely added more weight to the scene if she had done what you guys suggested, and I agree that would have made the scene even better. I don't think it's flawed in its own right, but I definitely think, it could have been better.
So after that, they do the same thing Din and Grogu did earlier. They kind of zippity on down to the bottom there,
and then she starts talking about relationship with the Jedi.
Yeah, I think that was pretty neat.
Which is very, very cool. Very, very neat.
I think my favorite, little interaction was, you must be pretty good with the Force if you found me so fast, or something like that. I thought that was a neat little line there for her, and it helped kind of bond, made me feel more attached to, like, I mean, maybe not attached, but grow softer towards,
cared for.
Yeah, her relationship with Grogu and what it could end up being, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that Mandalorians are not always just pure heartless mercenaries, or they always work for the Empire, because they did that in Rebels. Like, there was a faction of them that worked for the Empire because, hey, money, and they won't kill us. It's nice to see a Mandalorian's like, yeah, I remember when the Jedi were around. They were great to have around. Miss those days. So I really like this scene. I think it's sorely needed in Star Wars in general, is that perspective.
Her and Grogu together have, it feels weird to say good chemistry, but because he doesn't exist. But it's she acts with him well and is really sympathetic, very nurturing in a good way.
I got a question. I got a little question concerning this. I agree, and we've kind of discussed about Bo's chemistry and her talking to Grogu. But what do you think Grogu's response to her is? What do you think his feelings are towards her? Because I've seen and kind of understand where people are coming from, where they're talking about that Grogu kind of seems a little bit standoffish and flippity towards her.
Because all he's seen is Bo like not wanting anything to do with Din, you know, like she keeps trying to get him out of this cult and he keeps not, and she's like, well, like I don't want to deal with you until you.
I think the issue more goes down to the dark saber. My dad has the dark saber, and you want it, and the only way is to fight for it. So,
or he sees Bo as an opponent to his dad.
You know, I don't know about you, but if somebody was like, "Hey, your dad has something I want, and the only way to get it is to beat him," I'd be like, "You don't even think about it, bud." You know, I'm very protective of my family, including my parents.
Yeah.
So I totally understand why Grogu might be like, "Yeah."
A little
Yeah,
sus,
you know, thank you for helping, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, you're not happy with him because he has something that you desperately want.
I mean, also Mando has sort of taught him to be like his way, and Mando is sus of everything, as he should be.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's probably just sus of strangers because she still isn't part of their crew, you know.
Right.
Another stranger.
Yeah, you're Mandalorian, but you're not part of our Mandalorians, right? And that's that whole, like, this is kind of ultimately what the Empire wanted, right? If we divide the Mandalorians, then... Because if you think about it, I don't know what was the current canon reason for getting rid of the clones in the old DEU. It was growing concerns that a army of the clones that, on a whim, obey orders. That could be bad if they try to overthrow me, right? You know, so if we extend that to here... You get rid of your clone army. Well, what's the next greatest threat? How about the people that you cloned them from? They're not exactly an army of clones, but you know, the Mandalorians are some of the best fighters in the galaxy, and they have some of the most, you know, sought after armor. Doesn't surprise me. The Empire was just like, nope, we're gonna nuke them before they even have a chance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just seeing this like conflict between two perspectives of the Mandalorian way, I think is just. It kind of fits that idea that the Empire might have, you know. Hey, if they're divided fighting each other, they can't fight us.
No, that's good. I'm with you on that one. I think that's a fairly apt. Yeah.
That's my one tangent.
You're one.
Yeah. And so next, after that, she's very observant.
She's observant, unlike the person she's trying to save.
And she even protects Grogu. She like backs him off.
I like that.
Like,
that means she's like, I genuinely care about you, you know?
Yeah. It's like, get behind me, you know? There's something up.
I was like, hey, you might want to go over there. This might get a bit messy.
But yeah, I love how proficient they show her. Even though she can't hit the stupid thing with her blasters, she has to get close and personal, and then she goes buck wild on him. But
they seem somewhat resistant to blaster fire.
Well,
to be fair,
when Din did his fight with him earlier, he shot the first one with one shot, but then the other one knocked the gun out of his hand or something, and he couldn't shoot the other ones.
So maybe they're proficient. Well, because she makes a point later that these people were always on the planet beforehand.
Which I have something to say about that.
They're probably used to fighting Mandalorians in general, right? So
maybe
ambush the Mandalorian, get in close, knock their blaster away. They probably have ways of like knowing how to defeat them.
But they're out of practice. How many years has it been since this war?
5 years or so.
Oh, 5? No, that's not.
That doesn't mean the knowledge doesn't get transferred down.
Well, I don't know how long it's been since the Purge, but since Return of the Jedi, it's been about 5 or 6 years now.
I think the Purge happened very early on, because if it's in Rebels,
Well, it's not in Rebels, I don't think.
I thought their planet was already devastated at that point.
Well, the planet wasn't okay. So in Clone Wars, it was quote a wasteland with the domed cities, and then in Rebels, I don't think the Purge happened in Rebels. In Rebels, I mean, yeah, you can look it up, but I think
I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah, because I think they were still doing because part of some of the Mandalorians were working for the Empire at that time,
right?
And I don't think that they would have bombed Mandalore if they had Mandalorians working for them. I think it might have been
I don't think your Mandalorians would work for you if
So I think it's after Rebels is when, like, after the Mandalorians finally rise up and start fighting for the rebellion is when that probably went down. So it's probably a little bit after Rebels, during maybe a New Hope kind of time era, because Rebels was 5 years. It started 5 years before A New Hope, and it led up.
Okay, so it's
to
called the
the,
Great Purge of
One.
Mandalore, by the way, because there was the Siege of Mandalore during the Clone Wars,
Yeah.
and then there was the Great Purge of Mandalore. Looks like, according to this, was done by the Empire after it bombed during the Imperial era. The reason for this is that if they couldn't control Mandalore, they wanted to make sure no one else could.
Yeah, so that's what makes me think it probably happens shortly after Rebels, because in Rebels, Bo-Katan gets the Darksaber, they unite the clans for a little bit, and they fight for the rebellion, and at some point between then and now, she loses it to Gideon, and then Mando obviously gets it from Gideon, and now this is happening. So I think the Purge happens somewhere in the span of years after Rebels, before this show, which we have no idea. It's sometime during that
Oh,
period.
there's a link to the fusion bombs that they dropped. Oh, what are fusion bombs? I was right. A type of powerful nuclear weapon.
I mean, it looked pretty nuclear to me in the shot. So these creatures are brand new. They're brand new to this show, to the Mandalorian lore. I don't think they're definitely not in Clone Wars, and I doubt. I'm pretty sure they're not in Rebels. So they're brand new to this show. They're not in Legends, as far as I'm aware. So they're just kind of a new creation. It's kind of interesting because they've got the same kind of claw tusk things coming out the sides of their heads towards their mouth that are similar to the mythosaur skull. So I'm just kind of curious if maybe that's like the idea behind them. Like they're sort of a indigenous species that has some kind of descendants from the mythosaur or something.
So there's no official date for the Purge.
The Purge.
But
Yeah.
it did happen after the Mandalorian Civil War. So if you have at least that date, you could go say anywhere between the Mandalorian Civil War and I would venture, I would say no later than.
Well, then what Mandalorian Civil War are we talking about?
Well, it just says Mandalorian. So I'm assuming the one where they eventually united.
Yeah, probably in Rebels. That's what they're referencing.
Because, so here's the thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they controlled it. And then after the Emperor was killed, I think what happened was that as the Empire was starting to fall apart, that's when they did the bombing. Because they're like, well, we're not going to be able to hold this system because the Empire as a whole is falling apart, right? Because why would you bomb a planet that you're potentially harvesting the ore, right? Because in season 1, that dude had a cast of it, right?
Yeah, that's possible.
Not to mention that you were having Mandalorians on your side by hiring them, and I doubt they would work for you if you bombed their homeworld. So I would, if I had to make a guess, based off pure logic, it would make sense to me if it was after the death of Palpatine. That's what I would guess.
Possibly, yeah. I'm not gonna really argue that because we don't know.
Yeah, we don't, but like just based off of like what points of time we do have, that would be my guess.
But yeah, that was a tangent and a half.
Well, it's an important point for because that's the other thing. Because if it was bombed early in the Imperial era, that would mean that it's been decades and it's had time to recover from nuclear bombings. But if it was but if it's only been 5 years, I'm like, wow, 5 years for complete devastation of the planet. That's actually kind of quick.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting for sure.
I really like Bo. She's good.
Yeah. Gotta throw that one in there.
I mean I like seeing just how competently she fends off, much more competently than Mando. I think she is sufficiently more skilled than he is.
Yes, I did enjoy
and
that.
it makes sense. I haven't seen anyone complaining like, oh, female hero, kind of stuff.
That's because she was properly.
She's way older than him.
I mean, she was in war.
And she
grew up in war
her whole life. She's been through the Clone Wars as basically a soldier.
and she fought with very, very good Mandalorian fighters. And he
Oh,
fought
yeah.
with, I don't know,
Some
he
offshoot
fought
of
some crazy ones.
Some cult-
Yeah.
yeah.
So it would actually make weird.
Yeah, and
It would-
you know, I don't have a problem with her being a woman. I just care if the character is well written. I don't like Rey because Rey's just like, I picked up the lightsaber, I now know how to fight. It's like, what?
It would make a lot less sense if she was worse than. Yeah.
Right.
But she like
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she comes in, she's trying to save Din. She starts fighting the cool creature.
Oh, before that happens, I like the fact
Oh,
that she
yeah,
pulled
yeah,
out
yeah.
that real wrist shield to block stuff.
Yeah, I think she might have used it once.
Oh
in
yeah, we
season
haven't
2.
seen that too much. It doesn't pop out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's something unique. But it's something unique to her. He doesn't really have those, so it's
And
cool.
it's a good thing that they did it in that scene, because otherwise, the next scene where she uses it again along with the Darksaber, it would have been like,
Yeah.
oh, where did this come
And
from?
it's so cool when she
So.
uses it with a
Yeah.
dark saber, because it's like a knight with a sword and shield, and I was just like, oh man, this is awesome.
Exactly. That's why I was like, yeah, that's neat.
It's so cool how relatively quickly she takes that thing out, and yeah, just it's building up that conflict of the Darksaber in the future, because she is very, very competent with it, and he struggles so much, and it's like, who?
It does not weigh a whole lot when she's
Yeah.
holding it. It acts like a normal
And
saber.
what? Yeah, it's just more of that, like, who is going to get it? Who's going to be the right one? And that challenge, because
She's more worthy than Mando.
absolutely.
What is the lore behind the dark saber being heavy?
It's new. It's brand
Like,
spanking
why
new.
is it?
That's the
though?
thing. It did not exist until Book of Boba Fett.
Well, that's not entirely true. When Sabine had it, she was having trouble wielding it, but I thought that was basically just because she's never wielded a sword in her life. She's not a Jedi. She's Mandalorian. She uses blasters all the time. So when she was training with Kanan and Rebels with it, she's having problems, but she slowly got better and more efficient and with it and whatever. But then she just, ends up giving it to Bo.
Does it have to do with
But-
being worthy or some type of force thing?
Yeah, it's
or
the
what?
whole lore behind
It
that
was
is
not-
relatively. I think it's pretty new to this show, honestly.
Well, I'm curious.
It's
if they
alluded to in
expand
Rebels.
upon
because-
it.
Yeah, it's alluded to slightly in Rebels, but it's really brought into the forefront in this show, where it's like, oh, all of a sudden, if you aren't jiving with the sword, you're not going to be able to wield it very well.
Mhm.
Yeah, because Rebels had made it sound like, well, you're just so used to blasters, because Kanan's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I was
she
trained to use
complained.
swords,
She complained
right,
that it
'cause
was
I'm a Jedi,
heavy, and
you know?
and Kanan's like, all lightsabers are heavy and blah blah, and so it's weird. It's like maybe you have to have some kind of force sensitivity to really wield it or
Yeah.
something.
Are people without the force able to use lightsabers?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Like they're not going to be proficient with them, but they
Yeah.
can use them. Like Han Solo uses Luke's lightsaber to cut open the tauntaun.
And the dark saber, is that a force?
It's a lightsaber.
type of. Okay, that's what I thought. I
Yeah.
just needed to confirm
It's just called the dark saber because it's one of a kind. It was made by the quote first Mandalorian Jedi, which is heresy in my opinion.
it. And
But
it looks more like a sword than a lightsaber.
yeah, and it's
because of the shape is weird.
yeah. There's a lot of lore and logistics and like design stuff of the dark saber that we just don't know yet.
Mm.
But it looks cool. In live action, it looks cool. Yeah, but yeah, I really don't know where they're going at the end of the season with their conflict over that. But I think we're gonna get a lot of that,
Dude,
in
it's
the coming episodes here.
Yeah, it's so up in the air. I literally don't know who I want to be in control at the end, honestly, because after this episode, Bo is like really good with it. She seems genuine. She seems
She
genuine
has a more
enough.
noble cause.
Din is this reluctant guy who doesn't care anything to do with it. I think Boba should come out of the woodworks and just
Yeah.
take everyone's stuff. That's just me.
You guys, are you gonna say that every episode?
Yes, Boba for the win. But no, honestly, being realistic and where the story's going, I really think Bo has a good chance of being the leader at the end, and Din can just go off with Grogu and do his own thing. But who knows?
And I have a hard time, finding fault with that. I think that's she's cool, and then this has proven herself more than anything else that she's ever been in.
And this episode has made me like her
Yeah.
a lot more.
What do you
so
think of the
that
theory
helps.
or the speculation that maybe they are like a power couple? They become a power couple and just kind of do things together. Like maybe he keeps the sword, but she tames the beast at the end that we get to see and talk about later.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell me more about that.
I like them being together as like a partnership of sorts. If it's like, I would avoid like romanticism if that's what you're thinking.
I agree.
But I would love to see a female and male work together and have it not be romantic. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be neat.
I'd be down for romantic.
I
No.
wouldn't be opposed to either. Honestly.
Well, to be fair,
But the weird thing about it would be she's technically like maybe a decade older than him. At
are
least.
we sure? Because he was a kid.
That's not
'cause
weird.
he was a kid during the Clone Wars, and she was pretty young too.
She was at least she was late teens at the earliest during the Clone Wars.
No different than Anakin and Padme.
Trust me, it's not a problem.
Okay, I mean I don't know what her actual age was during the Clone Wars, but I'm fairly certain she was not young.
I
young.
like the idea of developing their platonic friendship and partnership.
That's fair.
Platonically.
That's
I'm
fair.
with that. I'm with that. It'd be kind of fun if they were like almost like
Yeah.
little co-parents of Grogu without the
Like Patrick and
romanticism there.
SpongeBob.
It'd be funny.
That would be
Totally. Yeah, let's. All right, alternate reality. They reared the King Bottom and
Oh man.
put Squidward in his place.
But yeah, they're fighting this thing again. She tries to save him, but for some reason she tries talking to him, getting a snap out of it first before, actually freeing him.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what are you doing?
So she allows the thing the time to get into his droid.
That's the illogical
Yeah.
script writing to allow certain things to happen.
And then she slaughters him again.
Yep.
I thought it was so cool. I was like mind blown because it's like the big creature and then a smaller robot comes out of that and then an even smaller robot comes out of that. I was like, oh my goodness, where does
Also, that's very Grievous inspired type of thing too, where he like is getting in more vehicles as he's escaping.
Yeah.
it was neat.
Yeah.
That
No,
was-
I
yeah.
like it.
That's another neat parallel to Grievous I didn't think about.
Yeah, and Grievous had a lair with spare parts. So, like, if you didn't kill him, he was just gonna go run back to his lair and be like, new body, I'm back. You know,
Yeah.
That's how he worked.
Then she beats him up, and then we see she's making this soup. This is a new soup. If
New to us.
it's new soup.
Really?
Don't know what it is. No Mandalorian of my ilk has ever drank it, so it's
This is really irritating to you. This is the worst
some of
Mandalorian
these
lore
small
decree.
little nuanced little lore additions. Yeah, they kind of get under my skin a little, But
What did you not like about this episode? I really hated the soup. I just thought it was.
well, there's a lot lore stuff that I'm just like, gosh, freaking dang it. But I can't fault it because it's it's coming after the Clone Wars. I know it's in that timeline, so it's whatever. But no, I'm just saying, like the indigenous creatures are new. The soup is new. If it was Legends accurate, it'd probably be Tihar, which is this strong alcoholic drink, because that is true Mandalorian wine.
I doubt that's what you would need at that
That's what
point,
he
right?
needs right now. Yes.
But they need substance.
Okay.
I mean, we all need it, but like,
But yeah, I mean, this was neat. I really like him being like, I owe you my life, but I have to continue my journey here.
Misa Jar Jar Binks.
And then she's like, fine, whatever, I'll take you. Gosh.
So bipolar with him.
It's yeah, she's like, can you please stop being a child? And then she's like, I think it's more like, okay, maybe if I show you, you'll snap out of it.
I share Bo-Katan's frustration here. It's like, dude, the water's not magical.
Or
you
is
know?
it?
Or
And-
is it?
We'll get there when we get there.
so they go to the waters. That is we're
No,
there.
we're not
That's
there
the
yet.
next thing.
Because what I share as well is like,
Okay, you nearly died. I'm going back. You haven't even healed up. I'm going back. You know what? Fine. Let me take you there so you don't get yourself captured again and have to save you again.
No, there's honestly some good thematic and like character development points in these last few scenes. Because when she's like, this is probably one of my favorite scenes here, when she's taking him, walking through with Din and just talking to him about her parents or how she's tired of the Mandalorians being segregated and split off and fighting each other and stuff.
And almost in a way saying that to him as well, like, tired of you people being out there.
In all seriousness, this is what I was like hoping for from that last scene of that, first episode. I think it dives way more into her trauma of it and her, it gave me what I wanted from last episode, so I kind of revised my critique from that last one because we got it somewhere.
Yeah, I think this first and second episodes would be really good as a hour-long or hour-and-a-half long binge. Yeah,
A single premiere episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely would have. Yeah,
because then people be
definitely
like, "Whoa, I thought the Minds of Mandalore were going to be the whole season. Now we're in the opening episode. It's already done." It's like, that could have been something.
Now it feels like the season has started now. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And I will say, I agree with this, like how they're walking. They're talking more about what Mandalore is and all this tidbits about like, I saw this place before it was
and
bombed.
you know what's great about this? For anyone coming in as knows nothing about Mandalorians, they're getting fresh new content, fresh new lore shoved in their faces, okay? None of this is from Legends. It might be cherry picked, and there's certain things that are brought in and tweaked that's not the exact same, but the lore is fresh and you can easily access it. It's easily accessible. And that's basically it. There's nothing deeper than what she's talking about right now.
It also connects the previous shows and the timeline. And by the way, I do like her little light up bulb that flows around. I think that's pretty neat. I wish I had one of those.
That just reminded me of Dune with his little glow orb
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
I dig it. Yeah, that's cool.
Just a mini version.
Yeah. There's also those in Prometheus and a bunch of but I like it.
They keep so she apparently also did this little ceremony thing as a princess with her father, which I don't even think we've ever seen their parents. So I don't know who her father was.
The ruler of Mandalore, apparently.
I think her father may have been. I think she was in. Was he in the Clone Wars show?
I think he might have died during the Mandalorian Civil War where Jango Fett fought in, because I don't think he's in the Clone Wars.
It sounded like she said that he died defending the city.
He died defending Mandalore, is what she said. So I'm not entirely sure. It's been forever since I've seen the Clone Wars.
Was that during Coruscant? We're not Coruscant, but
yeah.
It could have been at any point, is what you're saying.
Her father was the Duke of Mandalore at some point between 42 BBY or 42. Yeah.
Okay, so it's probably during the Mandalorian Schism, Mandalorian Civil War that Jango Fett fought in, because that's about the same time period that happened.
So you're saying
in Legends, anyway.
So you're saying he would have died a long time ago.
Yeah,
and not during the Mandalorian purge.
Right.
During the Great Clan Wars.
Yeah.
Did he have the Darksaber back then?
Possibly. So that means she was a coming of age person at that time. She was doing the little ceremony at that time, so she could have been like maybe 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like we saw in the first episode.
This is.
Which is making.
That was another point I was gonna make when we get up to this scene where he's going in the water. It's basically a complete parallel to the beginning of the first episode, because in the first episode they're doing the ritual out in the water. Then this giant monster comes up and attacks them. Guess what? He's doing the same thing here. Giant monster.
It's like, what is with you people and water?
Yeah. No, it is kind of a fun parallel, though. Yeah.
But I also like the fact that their perception on it is different. She knew it was just a ceremony. There was nothing magical about the waters that made you Mandalorian. It was just like a knighting ceremony. There was nothing really that happens. It's just maybe a title. And his little cult has taken that to the extreme of that.
That's what happens with myths in general. It's great. Yeah, something real happens, and then people take that, and then they expand on it over time, and it becomes sort of superstitious.
When the original is no longer around and you tell the stories, it gets extrapolated into something that it wasn't.
Yeah, it's the telephone game over
I
generations.
was about to say it's the telephone game,
Yeah.
So, and I was hoping that, well, technically, maybe it could happen in the next episode because of how abruptly this one ends. I was hoping that he was going to be like, wait, so this is just what the ceremony was? Like, it's not at all what my clan is telling me? And then he proceeds to walk in the water anyway, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I mean, she kind of discusses what she did. She, like, I guess she walked in the water and she said the creed or whatever, but it was all, like, pompous and for show. It was like a royal thing. And then he goes and does it. But when he does it, kind of skipping ahead, I've got stuff to cover that happens before this. But when he does it, and he's slowly walking down, and he's saying the creed or whatever, she's kind of looking on at him, kind of admiringly, is what I saw. What I felt like she was kind of respecting him, kind of gaining respect as she's watching him do that, because it maybe kind of calling back to what she did, or.
I almost feel like she misses the naiveness. I feel like it's like after you've gone through something in your life that makes you view life as more complicated or more realistic, and when you look back on something so simple, it's like, oh, that's kind of nice. Like, I almost wish I still believed in something so simple.
Yeah, maybe. I think she's also maybe kind of gaining a respect for
him and his beliefs,
his strong dedication to the creed and to Mandalore.
The dedication.
Yeah,
I was gonna say the dedication.
She's like, oh shoot, and immediately,
You just know. Yeah, she rushes into there, man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one shot of her before that happens, and I can't tell if that's her being like, hold on, something's not right. Like, I sense something's wrong with something might be in the water kind of sense, or if that's
I don't know. I
what
think
you were saying about the admiration.
I think it's just like an admiration kind of thing, because she seems pretty freaking surprised when he goes down.
Or maybe she is force sensitive and her force senses are tingling that something's wrong, and that's why she can build the dark
that's not the
saber
case.
better.
I really hope that's not the case.
Well, you don't have to be force sensitive to get a bad feeling about things. Han Solo was like,
all
I
the
got a bad
time
feeling about this.
He's the
all you
main
gotta
one
do
who
is
has a
have
bad
some
feeling.
midichlorians in your blood and you're force sensitive. Just need a few.
But I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
So
not
what
good
I
in
was
that
going to cover for him. So
Oh.
what?
Before we move on from midichlorians, are they ever going to tell us why that scientist wanted Grogu's midichlorians? Because I still want to know.
Well, we're getting there.
I'm genuinely.
We're gonna
curious
get there. I know, because in the trailer we see that scientist running through Coruscant. So we've
thank
got
God.
places to go, people to see in this season. It's gonna be crazy.
I'm so excited. Okay, continue.
I
Sorry.
want Werner
Okay.
Herzog back,
Where he's dead.
I
He's
know.
dead, Jim.
and it was terrible.
So Mando gets pulled down. She goes after.
Well, wait.
him.
So before that, I skipped some stuff I said I was gonna go back to, but so they go into the main room and she's like, here, I want to give you the full tour, and reads this plaque next to it.
And that's it.
All that lore is new.
Does that make you mad?
Straight new. Mandalore the Great is not a thing.
Yeah, well, it is.
Mythosaurs were a thing, and it's the same kind of concept where if the mythosaur skull is their symbol, like, of Mandalorians. So that's
Oh,
that's
is
all
that
good.
what
Well,
that is?
yeah, the skull, the Mandalorian skull, is a mythosaur skull.
Oh, see, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what she said when she reads the plaque. That's what she's talking about.
See, I'm not the only one that didn't get it.
Well, she explained it to
I
you verbatim,
did
reading
know
the
that.
stupid placard. It's like a museum placard.
Yeah, but she doesn't tell you that. Hey, by the way, that's
You
that
don't.
over
She
there.
doesn't
By
tell
the way,
you that that's a freaking mythosaur, because for all anyone knows, they're extinct. They've been extinct for eons, thousands of centuries. Like in Legends, they were even extinct before the Old Republic games.
Yeah, but what I'm referring to is that
if you watch the very beginning of this season, there is a skull of that creature.
Oh, yeah,
I knew it was a creature, but I didn't realize it was this mythical creature. I thought it was just like,
yes.
that's their symbol.
So
you
yeah,
know?
that's what it is. Even in Legends, the Mandalorian skull symbol is a mythosaur skull.
It would have been really neat if they had that symbol of that skull
Yeah.
right above the
Let me
plaque.
see. They
That
show
would
the
have been
that
helpful. And made
That
it
would have been like an
better.
easy
yeah. They
way
show
to
the
tie
plaque.
that in.
Let me see here.
I still picked it up, and I don't know if that's because I kind of knew that ahead of time or what, but I still I was still.
I mean, I knew that.
I think it was
Yeah.
my incompetence that.
Well, yeah, but you know stuff about Mandalorian.
Yeah, they didn't. They
nothing.
don't have that skull
Okay.
on the placard, which would have been good. I agree. That probably would have been better if the skull was actually on the placard. It would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because
Here
like
to make the connection.
exactly. But if you don't, it's like if you don't give the opportunity to make a connection, I'm not going to make that connection.
Yeah, but she says verbatim that the mythosaur skull, or not verbatim, but she basically says the mythosaur skull became the symbol of their planet. Because Mandalore the Great tamed the ancient mythosaur, blah blah blah. But that part of it is fake and new to this Disney stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if they also, this isn't like the last we hear of that lore either. I think that there's
Oh, yeah.
probably I think if you
There's
didn't pick
more
it
in
up
store.
if you didn't pick it up this episode, I bet you're gonna pick it up soon.
Dude, okay, so yeah, so he falls. We gotta get there, man. I gotta talk about it. So so he falls down after saying the creed.
The Mythosaur.
Yeah, so he
Oh, is that
falls
what
down
that
after
is?
saying the creed, and she jumps in after him, goes way down because he dropped like a rock apparently, picks him up, and as they're coming up, she sees the eye, the horns, and then the eye of the creature, and it's huge. And it's the first depiction of a living mythosaur in any kind of Star Wars media.
Well, yeah, because now that I know what that is, I recognize the horn
Yeah,
structure,
The
right?
head shape.
So, yeah, so that explains why you were geeking out
Oh, yeah.
after this episode. I'm just like, well, what are you geeking out about?
Dude,
It's just a monster.
Because 4 years, we've never. It's kind of like how we've never seen, or we don't know what Yoda's species is. It's one of those Star Wars mysteries where you don't know. It's never been explored or said in Legends or canon or anything, where we've ever seen a live depiction of a mythosaur.
So this one's just been hibernating all these millennia.
Yeah, so it's probably accurate to say, because these things are ancient. They were hunted to extinction, at least in Legends, by the Tong, which were the first race of Mandalorians. And they probably were no bigger than maybe a crate dragon, a lesser crate dragon. At least that's from what I can tell. Though, in an old Legends comic, like an old one, set sometime between 4 or 5 and 6, it's somewhere in that time area where I think Leia and Luke go to Mandalore or to try and find Boba Fett or something they're trying to track down Han Solo, and they go to Mandalore, and there's a whole city on Mandalore built inside of a mythosaur skeleton. I'm pretty sure that's
The only thing that referenced the size.
yeah,
of them.
that's the only thing that kind of references the size of a mythosaur, at least as the bigger ones, I guess. My theory that I came up with that I would think would be really neat, if you've ever played the Knights of the Republic games, and on Manon, you know how the Phrax, a shark, was the source or the guardian of their culto on Manon? I think it'd be really cool if a similar concept was for this. So, like, this thing was awakened from the depths by the hydrogen bombs, and it's like the end-all be-all mythosaur, and it's kind of like the guardian or the source of the Beskar. I think that'd be really. I think that would be really neat. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that would be a cool concept theory that I had.
So you're not against new lore as long as it's
Because
new
Yeah.
lore.
well, it's because for years I've wanted to see a live mythosaur somewhere, but in order to do that, you'd have to go way back, like before Infinite Empire.
That
I
does
think.
bring a couple of questions for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that would make me go, okay, so
going back to that plaque, the first great Mandalorian killed them, right? And
No.
that was
Yeah,
just the beginning
so
of it.
it said Mandalore the Great tamed the ancient mythosaur or whatever. And it
They
kind
were
of
ridden and tamed.
yeah.
does it
So
say
it kind of
tamed?
made it sound like maybe there was one mythosaur, but I doubt that. It's just like he tamed an ancient mythosaur or whatever, and it was this mythosaur apparently, because it said that the placard said that the living waters pool in the mines used to be a mythosaur lair, and that Mandalore the Great tamed it, controlled it or whatever, and then that's what caused the mythosaur skull to be the symbol of Mandalore, symbol of the planet.
See, the key word there is tame. So that could be the same one that was tamed
It could be
all that time ago.
It could have been, or that's what I'm hoping. Like, it could be this ancient beast that is just unfathomably old, and the guardian or source of their best car or whatever, because it's in the mines.
Considering Yoda is 900 years old, I would not be opposed to believing that this thing can live to like thousands of years.
It'd be cool.
It's a fictional universe. You can make the rules once you make those rules and you follow them. That's what I care about. It's when you make rules and then you break them later for convenience.
Dude, the reveal of this thing is so freaking cool. I cannot wait to see more of it. Oh my gosh.
So that brings me to wondering if Bo-Katan, I wonder if she read that plaque originally like, oh, that's a fairy tale, and is now like her whole world just got shattered because there is a living version of
exactly.
that down
So
in those
she's
waters.
running up. She's trying to carry Din back up, and when she's seeing this, she's like freaking out. Like, you can see the bubbles coming up out of her helmet and everything, and she's like, getting the heck out of here, kind of thing. It's awesome. I'm glad that she's like, holy crap, it's real, and kind of getting out of there.
And then we cut to black, and
yeah, when they crash land up on the top, she's kind of like just breathing heavy and like probably under her helmet she's looking back at the waters under her helmet. She's probably like, what in the world?
yeah. So of course, with him now technically completing his mission. So did he just fall off the little ledge there? Is that one?
That's how I interpret it. Some people interpret that the mythosaur itself like drug him under, but I think he would be dead if they
Well,
did
I was gonna
that.
say, if he did that, like, why did he go back and take a nap?
Well, I think he just kind of like maybe he fell because he wasn't expecting it to be a sheer drop off like it was. He probably fell, hit his head, and blacked out somewhere along the way, and that's why he didn't just surface immediately.
I thought the mythosaur pulled him under and he passed out because he didn't pressurize his helmet.
I mean, that's possible, but I don't think the mythosaur really had anything to do with it. I think it was just a coincidence.
Looking back on it, it doesn't make sense because there would have been a bigger splash. But unfortunately, I have another issue that comes up with it. If he just fell, why did Bo-Katan have to jetpack through water all the way down to the bottom? That would imply he just fell faster than it was to use the jetpack to get down there.
If you pay attention, as she's going down, she's like using her headlamp, and she's just not seeing anything until she turns her headlamp off. She finally sees his light shining in from the bottom. So he could maybe have still been falling as she's searching for him.
It's just like, man, he fell a long way quick.
It's really difficult, like weird edit, but I think that's a possible explanation.
Here's a thought. Maybe the mythosaur didn't pull him down. Maybe it was because the waters are magical, like he thought the whole time.
Oh gosh. Don't.
I mean, like they're doing something I didn't necessarily want it to do. I wanted them to like disband the mysticalness of it, but I do end up kind of liking it that they're maybe leaning into a little bit of that.
I mean,
so I think that's.
I mean, this
neat.
is Star Wars. There's a thing called the Force and Jedi, and
sure.
It's not it's not too far fetched that there's something not necessarily Force but mythical that still has the power in Mandalore, which I think.
Yeah, so I actually do really like it. As I'm seeing it now, I like it, and I like them leaning into it. I think it could be kind of fun.
All I can think of is that, Siege of Coruscant, I sleep. Purge of Mandalore, I sleep. Somebody fell in my bedroom,
You
I
should
awake.
make that meme. That's great. Like how just a dead mythosaur skeleton or something as the other two memes, and then the live one at the last one. That's great.
I already was kind of wondering what was gonna happen. Like, obviously, there's the big thing of what is gonna happen this season, but I didn't have even more of that feeling till this part. Like, till the mythosaur, that really opened up for me. Like, I really have no concept of where this is going in a good way.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we all pretty much thought that Mandalore was going to be a end of the season kind of thing, but now that we're here and we see a mythosaur already, like, good grief, dude.
Like, where do you even like
Where
start to go? I mean, I think that there's some
I know.
semblance of who's gonna rule, but
And I think this is why we've had the pacing issues. Is that I think they wanted to have this surprise red herring like gotcha moment, and not only that, they got everyone talking because anyone that
Yeah, it's definitely.
I don't think it's an issue. I just
no,
think
it's
like,
not an issue. I'm just
surprising.
saying the pacing issues make sense now because they wanted to have this payoff early in the season, so that way people would be like, "Well, I don't know what the season's going to be now," because I think a lot of us, especially when Book of Boba Fett came out, we knew at the end that all right, Mando's got to get this thing figured out, and we figured that's what season 3 was going to be about. Now it's like, oh yeah, he's done. Episode 2, he's in the water, he's out.
But they're still on Mandalore. They now have a mythosaur to deal with. If they decide to deal with it, they could just yeet.
Or there's some story implications here.
I hope that they expound.
I think they're gonna seriously explore this.
I'm
yeah.
sure they are because it's been alluded to in the previous seasons already, and even in the previously on in this episode, it plays the scenes that alludes to this. I think I don't know if it's in season 1 or 2, but the armor tells Din about this like prophecy where the mythosaur will rise to herald in a new dawn of Mandalore. It's somehow connected to Bo-Katan because it's in the same conversation Din's talking about Bo to the armor, and it's all starting to happen right now.
Oh, so that's what the season
Yeah,
might be.
so I'm thinking we're probably going to get something with the mythosaur and Bo becoming leader, or having some struggle between Din and Bo becoming
reawake
the leader.
Yeah.
Maybe they could.
Or maybe they recognize that the whole facade of the Darksaber and like you have to win in combat is stupid, and he gives it back just like Sabine did.
Well, I don't think that. I think she'll definitely want it because it's kind of apparently when she took the Darksaber, instead of winning in combat, it kind of acted like a curse on Mandalore. Like everything went to crap after that.
Because you didn't earn it.
And so she's definitely wanting to earn it this time. But with this mythosaur thing, they could like, one of them might be able to tame it possibly, and they just kind of use their friendship or whatever to unite the peoples with the mythosaur and the Darksaber.
She controls the mythosaur, he has the Darksaber, power couple.
Yeah.
And how much would you just like die if you got to see a mythosaur shot of Bo riding on top of it?
I don't care who rides it.
any Mandalorian riding.
But
what would you do?
My preference. Boba Fett comes riding in.
Of course.
Takes over the mythosaur, takes the Darksaber, beats the crap out of both of them, and it's like, I'm Mandalore now.
He's already got a freaking. Was it a? I forgot.
Rancor.
Yeah,
A Rancor?
It's
That's okay.
late.
Add to his menagerie. Just add to his menagerie, bro.
It's not a mythosaur.
The mythosaur could eat the Rancor.
I still think we're gonna get him.
That's a scene.
I sure hope we still get
either
Boba.
way.
I still think we're gonna get Boba sometime.
Either way, it'd be neat if this was like them writing the resurgence of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's one thing I dislike is I hate seeing destruction like that in such widespread. Like that's why I hate like walking around on Terrace after it's destroyed, because it's so depressing. And legitimately, like as much as I like playing the Fallout games for their stories, it is depressing because you see all the destruction. And so it'd be neat if this was like the beginning of the rebirth of Mandalore. I would love to see that.
Yeah, that is a fun bit of kind of lore, especially from Legends, is the reasons
I think that's what's happening.
why there's so much of that in the Old Republic, and like in comparison to why the Empire they don't like bombard planets from orbit or whatever is because they have in modern Star Wars they have planetary shields. Even if they're not to the level of Scarif, they still have planetary shields so that they can't be bombarded by a fleet. But in the Old Republic, they didn't have that technology. That's why Telos and Terrace and other planets were just destroyed utterly by the Sith by being bombarded from the
orbit.
Orbit.
Planetary bombardment. Yeah.
But when it comes to this, see, it's kind of different. They didn't have those type of nuclear weapons in the Old Republic. Obviously, here they do, and so they can just drop nukes with bombing runs inside atmosphere.
They get underneath the shield and fly in atmosphere and just go, ha ha. Because that's what they showed.
That's why the Clone Wars was so destructive, was that they had so many different battlefronts, and they were just carpet bombing and doing a bunch of
traditional warfare,
wide scale battles on the surface, and not too much. They'd have to like blockade and stuff because of planetary shields and all that.
There was no convenient way to take over a planet.
Mm-hmm. And plus, when you destroy too many planets, you basically destroy valuable resources, valuable people that can work your mines and junk.
Which is why I made the argument of like, that's why I think the Purge of Mandalore was at the downfall of the Empire.
Yeah.
Because I feel like their resources were just too valuable. One of the best materials in the galaxy, Beskar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just gonna nuke the planet instead. That's just not the Empire way. The Empire is more of like absorb.
I'm surprised that they didn't have it happen during like Operation Cinder.
Well, that could have been after Operation Cinder. Like, after Operation Cinder failed because it got destroyed, the satellites, maybe they were like, well, what else can we do? Well, we have these bombs we can drop from the TIE bombers. They're kind of destructive. They're nuclear. And the guy was just like, I like your idea. We're doing that,
Yeah.
Because once you nuclear bomb something, there's no taking over it. Or at least not conveniently. Yeah, sure, you may be able to put your flag down, but it's like, all right, you can't live here.
Well, this was a crazy episode. What are you guys' final thoughts?
This episode left me wanting to go watch the Clone Wars episodes and learn more about Bo-Katan, because I feel like we got to learn a lot about her in this episode, and I've never watched the Clone Wars, and it kind of makes me want to see more of her and go back and watch that at some point.
Does that make you want to barf, Anakin?
Anakin, and yes.
I told you, I'm not good with names. You're just going to have to deal with it.
I think this is. I'm struggling to find. I think in my head of a better episode that I personally liked more. I don't know. There are a couple, but the season 2 finale or something like that. But man, I just think it's one of the top episodes yet. I was like kind of concerned after the first episode of that first season, but I'm not as much now because I don't really have many clues what's coming up, and I think that's really exciting because
it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's really unpredictable, and to a certain degree the second one was too, but it wasn't as serialized as this one is. This seems to be much more continuous and much more story focused than season 2 started out.
It's more like a movie that's been chopped up.
Yeah, rather than little adventures. And I like the little adventures. I like that gimmick, but I am also really enjoying the very continuous story too. I think it's really compelling comparatively.
So refreshing to be able to see something that I can't predict what's going to happen next. Like, yeah, we predicted they were going to go to Mandalore, but we didn't think they were going to come this early. And now it's like, what are they going to go do? Like, we actually get to see something new that we can't just come up with right away on our own.
Yeah, I was expecting like a filler where he's got this giant hijinks trying to find a droid part.
Mm-hmm.
Teaming up with Boba and Bill Burr's character to go find this droid part in this deep hidden Imperial bunker or something,
Which would match the previous seasons,
Yeah.
So it
wouldn't have been bad. It would
have not
anything. It just. But I'm happy that it's something brand new. The season has its own identity, or at least so far it has its own identity.
So, do you think after talking about it and understanding it more, do you think you like it better now, Captain?
I enjoy. So it doesn't really change my thoughts about the episode, because I don't have that nostalgia for this creature that you guys clearly have a lot of love for. It's neat, and it makes this episode make more sense, but it doesn't like change like, oh, now I think this is like one of the best episodes ever, because to me it's not. I would still give it like a 9 out of 10 because I think it's very competently shot. I think it's much better flowing than the previous episode. It's very linear, whereas we're not getting this like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of different things all at once in one episode. And for that reason, along with some of the storytelling here, I think it's a very good episode. It's not my favorite though.
I mean, I came into this episode not knowing anything about this lore stuff and all these characters and creatures, but it still left me wanting more in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I sit here going, okay, well, what's the rest of the season? And to go about that whole, like, more continuous versus episodic, I think the two will complement each other, especially if they keep making more seasons of Mandalorian. Because if you think about it, I love the prequels, and I love how the Clone Wars show fills in between. It's almost like Mandalorian is having that, but within its own name. Like, we got a couple of like TV show episodes leading up to season 3, where then we might have this great arc that happens, almost like a movie in the traditional sense, like maybe like a title movie, like episode 3 or something. And then we might get more episodic stuff afterwards, after we've had this grand event. It could be really interesting if that's the case. And because while it is neat to have this continuous line, like it's a movie that's kind of chopped up, I did enjoy the first 2 seasons having a complete episode that had a beginning and a wrap up, and then I could talk with my friends about it. I'm like, yeah, that was a neat episode. And I wasn't going for 6 days like, oh, I want to know what happens next. I still wanted to know what happens next, but I wasn't feeling like I was like constantly getting cliffhanged, right? I was getting that satisfaction of a complete story. This might have been one of those seasons where if it is more like a movie, it might have been more sense to quickly release it. So
I'm always in that camp with you. So yeah, I'm always there.
Not necessarily the whole season in one day, but maybe something different where it's like, every day
I don't know about that.
you get a new episode.
I understand.
It has its plus
I
and perks.
understand the sentiment. Back before the Star Wars shows came out, I was very much like, just drop it all at once so I can binge it. For a while, I've kind of grown out of that, and I'm kind of enjoying the weekly releases again. And the reason behind why they wouldn't like drop more than one episode at a time for this show in general is probably because it's just 8 episodes. Well, for like Bad Batch, they've got 16, so they dropped 2 episodes the first day, and then mid-season they dropped 2 more at the same time. But the rest of the weeks is just 1.
I think to something like Andor though, and like that 3 episode first drop really benefited it.
Yeah.
And I do think that I would have a completely different impression of the season if they dropped the first 2.
Yeah.
Just the first 2.
And that's what I agree with. I think this should have been either a singular episode, these 2, or they should have been dropped at the same time. I think that really would have helped it, because I think that was our biggest complaint. All of us agreed is that there was a lot happening in 38 minutes, and that was it for the week.
Yeah.
And now I get it. Yeah.
What do you guys think about like a show like this or like Andor that it's like broken up into 3 episode arcs sort of idea? If they just drop those 3 episode arcs each week instead of like the whole show, or like 1 episode a week, they could drop like the whole arc.
Oh, absolutely. I would be on that.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I wished Andor did that for sure. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be opposed. Now, I will say though, I kind of enjoy the singular episodes when they are more like in complete form, like season 1 and 2, because you get a period of enjoying the show. Then you're like, okay, well, if the show were to pick up at the exact same date next year, I only got to wait 10 months.
Yeah.
Versus if you binge the whole thing in one weekend, it's like, all right, see you guys in a year, and I'll be a year older,
Yeah.
So I enjoy the spread out content.
You're all good. Thanks for joining me. To wrap up, just give your score out of 10 for the episode. Captain, go.
9 out of 10.
Kleina?
I'm bad at ratings.
9.5 out of 10.
Go ahead.
I'll just go with the crowd and say 9 out of 10.
Okay, well, we not gonna discuss it or like explain why, but I
That's what
actually
the previous 2 hours are for.
I actually give it an 8.
Okay.
Maybe an 8.5.
It's just because you're still bitter about Disney Mando lore.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's bitter about the lore.
It's kind of that.
It's biased.
But
It's just biased.
besides, it's just biased. But besides that, it's great. It's definitely one of the best, if not the best, Mandalorian episode in my opinion. Other than maybe the first episode of season 2, I really enjoyed that one.
Well, last question for you: is it your favorite Mandalorian thing to come out of Disney, or post Clone Wars, I should say?
Seeing a Mythosaur in live action, yes. And the potential of seeing it more in later episodes, yes. I'm super excited.
I think it's only fair to say that since this is like your guys' favorite moment, mine has to be that great fight in the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, the Great Dragon.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my top episodes.
It's definitely, yeah, that's what I was saying. The only other episode I can think of that's better or could compare to this one is that episode. But I probably would.
I would say that and season 2 finale for me.
Maybe it would top it if the Crate Dragon looked more like the lesser Crate Dragons that I'm used to instead of the greater ones that I didn't know existed. Either way, that's just a lore thing for me.
It's always a lore thing with you.
It's always a lore thing. Anyway, thank you all for joining us, and hope you guys come back next week for episode 3. Holy crap, I can't wait. Catch you later.
Bye.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what that is, because none of us know where this is going now.
Yeah.
Bye.